a lamp unto my feet.
May the Lord give you peace, my dear brothers and sisters. For our reflection today, we take the first reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 15, verses 1 to 12 and 17 to 18, in which Abraham comes twice before God and asking for an assurance, because Abraham waited and waited, relying on the promise of God that God would multiply his descendants. In the book of Genesis chapter 12, we see God promised him a descendant, a son. But while waiting, they become childless. They remain childless. And there, Abraham comes and suggests to God as his plan, as Abraham's plan to God, that he would adopt one of his maidservant, Eliezer, as his descendant, as his son, adopted son. But God says, no. I have a plan for you. I have a plan for you. Please come out and watch the stars of the night. Can you count the multitude of stars? I will multiply your descendants like that, inheritance like that. That's how Abraham is asked to believe once again, trust once again, when he felt bad about the bad situation that he and Sarah had. But God gives him again a promise. That's where the scripture tells, Abraham had faith in God and that he puts it as a righteous. What is this righteousness? The righteousness is the relationship between God and Abraham is having a condition in the sense of obligation to trust with each other. Abraham trusts God and God keeps his covenant with Abraham forever. That's why the psalmist today very beautifully tells us that God remembers his covenant forever. And once again, Abraham comes for an assurance before God, asking him how to trust that the land will be given to him. That's where God tells him, now you choose the animals and cut into two. And then Abraham does so, and then God passes by. What is this kind of covenant? What is kind of symbols which are placed before us? Our ancient ancestors made this kind of covenant with other by cutting the animals into two and placing on the side, whereby they walk in between, which would also tell them that we are bringing curse upon us if we don't follow this covenant. Curse in the sense of that our bodies also, our shoulders also will be cut into two if we don't observe this agreement, if we don't abide by this agreement. My dear brothers and sisters, see how beautifully God comes in to their culture of Abraham, and he also abides by that covenant, stating that I also keep my covenant forever, because I observe the nuances of this covenant that you made with me, that I made with you. See, brothers and sisters, in our trials and tribulations, in our difficult situations as we undergo these days, the COVID situation, questions our faith in God, questions our trust in God. As God had promised Abraham, he made his covenant and made him doubly believe that he would be a covenant forever with them. He would be a God who would be walking with them forever. That's how he multiplied their descendants. That's how he gives the promised land as he had made in his covenant. That's what in the gospel today, Jesus speaks about false prophets. False prophets are the ones who would not trust in God, rather they put their trust in themselves. That's how he brings about a good tree bearing good fruit and a bad tree bearing bad fruit. Jesus, as a good shepherd, bore that good fruit. How? He did not trust in himself, rather he put all his faith in his Father. He put all his trust in his Father and he laid down his life for the other. That's a good shepherd that he speaks about. That's a good fruit that he speaks about. In our trials and tribulations, we may call ourselves as Christians, but when this kind of moment of tribulations come in, trials come in, pains come in, difficult moments come in, do I still keep my trust in God and walk by that faith? May God help us to understand His wisdom.